Thank you for joining us here on the Retirement Income Source, where it's all about investing for income the old-fashioned way. I'm Tim Sparks. Our show is sponsored by Sparks Financial Group right here in the heart of the Bluegrass, Lexington, Kentucky, serving Louisville and middle Kentucky and also northern Kentucky. Our firm focuses and specializes on income. Now, when I say income, I'm not talking about the traditional methods that are being proposed today. 99% of the portfolios that I see today are not really truly investing for income. That's the reason I call it the old-fashioned way. There was a time when people invested for interest and dividends, but not anymore, because we've gotten so wanting so much growth and the desire to have growth that we have replaced income for growth. Well, I don't know about you, but how's that working out right now? I don't know about you, but anytime the markets drop like they have, and they drop pretty quickly, a lot of us are probably right now feeling, what's next? I mean, is this going to continue? Is it going to get worse? Well, the reason we focus on income, and it's really hard sometimes to get our clients to be able to understand it other than once we start doing the reviews, it starts making more and more sense. And I had a client just in the office just the other day, and I decided, I think what I'm going to do here, and it warrants, just to teach this person because of some of the questions they were bringing up about how income works. You see, income is paid on a specific dollar amount on a per share basis. Just like a share is equivalent to an acre. But of course, an acre of land is probably going to cost more than what a share is. I mean, you probably got to have maybe 100 or 300 shares to equate to the same value as an acre. But there's a lot of similarities, because that acre of land can, believe it or not, can provide a certain amount of income to that farmer. And if they got a 300-acre farm, they're going to get more income out of the more acres that they have. If you take, like when I used to travel down Florida through the orange orchards, I mean, I'm talking about tens and tens of miles of orchards that we would pass through, and you can tell that that these orchards were, the purpose of those orchards and oranges was to provide income to those farmers, and without them we wouldn't have orange juice, right? Well, believe it or not, when you invest for income, there is market volatility, and there is also real estate volatility as far as the land that you own. But if you're getting income even in down markets like currently that we're experiencing, or if the land value equivalently is going down in value, the farmer doesn't care. And that's the whole point. Investing for income, you should not care neither. I'm not saying we're trying to remove the anxieties of the market volatility. Yes, it's a hard pill to swallow. But in the long run, it's well worth it. Why? Because the dividends and interest that are provided to you are paid separately, just like the crops are providing the income to that farmer. And that's the reason why we bring this up so many times on this radio show, because people are not doing it. They're leaving money on the table, and they otherwise don't have to. And just like right now, I mean, we have people that are not just retiring right now, but they're coming in wanting to have a plan. And I even talk to people who says, well, you don't seem to be stressed out about the markets. I'm not, because we're investing our clients for income. And if they come in and, and they're down in their portfolio, I tell them, I said, listen, we're not going to take you out of the market. You're probably concerned you're going to miss on the way back up, right? And recover what you've already lost. Well, we're going to put you in equivalent scenario to where you can pick that back up, but let's increase your paycheck while you're trying to get that climb back in the market. So you can do that when you own instruments that provide you income. Most people don't do that. What they basically do, and this is what their plans are about today, and this is 99% of the portfolios, and it's just our industry. It is the financial industry, is the advice that's been given today, is they're hoping to recover it with what you got left. In other words, what do I mean by that? If I have a 300-acre farm, instead of me utilizing crops to generate income, I'm selling acreage instead, and that's what most people are doing. So that's what I mean when I say you're selling shares and generating income. So let's just say year one, in that scenario, you sell 4 or 5 acres to have the income because you didn't have any crops providing you any income, and so you've now reduced your asset worth by 4 or 5 acres. Now that may not be a lot, but the problem occurs is the longer you own the farm, because you got to be more concerned about how many acres you're going to have left at the end of your life. And if you're reducing them each and every year, which is exactly what you're really doing, and you're doing it in mutual funds the same way, you're doing it in exchange trade funds the same way, you're selling those shares and you're giving up your hedge for inflation. You can't control the markets come down, but you can control how you invest for income. And if you want to be able to get through these times and periods like we're going through right now, then invest for income, because it's not going to change. I mean, right now, our clients are their income their paychecks are not going to change just because the markets are down 15% in about 4 or 5 days. I mean, you have to get real. You have to be realistic when you understand that you got to be prepared for the markets when they go down, equally as prepared when they're going up. The only way a real good and true investor is going to be able to make money in the market is they got to stay in the market, but they got to have a reason to stay in the market. So if you would like to know more about that, we got a commission report I want to get in your hand called Risk Tolerance and Investing for Income. We even show you about the tools that you should be using for retirement that our clients are using right now, that their paychecks didn't change this month no more than they changed last month. They were the same last month as this month, and they're not spending principal, but you are. And matter of fact, if you took an income withdrawal, you sowed principal at the tune of maybe a 15% reduction. So I don't know about you, but that is not how you're going to retire comfortably. But I get it. At the end of the day, we don't feel comfortable. But when it comes to income, it's all about investing for true income that doesn't change, even in what we're seeing right now with market volatility. And if you would want to know more about that, call 888-930-1080. It's a great report, very short and simple, to the point. 888-930-1080. Thank you for listening to the Retirement Income Source. This is Tim Sparks. Today we are talking about anxieties, markets, and income. I'm sure most of you are starting to have some anxiety. Matter of fact, I'm going to do a little short clip to email out to all our clients about how we're still getting income no matter what we're experiencing right now in the markets. You see, when the markets are down, like they have been the last few weeks, or if they continue to go down, or embrace that for maybe a possible recession, you can't control that. What you can control is how you invest your money, so that way you can continue to get those paychecks, because your lifestyle shouldn't change just because the markets change. But I can tell you right now, when the markets go down, people's lifestyle changes. It not only changes, but they start reducing the things that they were doing just a few months ago because, everybody was high-fiving in the streets. They thought the markets will never go down again. Nobody plans for them to go down, especially when they're doing very well. For 2 straight years in the rearview mirror, the markets have been going up. But when the markets start going down, your income plan should not change. So you see, income works better in any environment because if you use the right tools, then it does not change. You see, if you own an individual bond versus bond funds, first of all, you're already going to have a higher income in an individual bond than you have in bond funds. Keep in mind, most people need income of at least 4 to 5% of their portfolio in general. That's most commonly what I see. And if you want to know how to achieve that and not touch your principal, then you're going to have to change the instruments that you're using, because the instruments you're using right now are not going to get you through these tipsy-turvy times. Because when the markets rebound, just like the farmer that was living on crops, then if the real estate value goes back up, he doesn't care one way or the other because he's living on income. He's going to continue to keep the asset because he knows in the long run that asset he can pass down to his kids possibly or his grandkids. And therefore, you can actually create a legacy. It's hard to create a legacy with the way people are doing things today. Spending their principal and hope they'll recover it. Why? Because you're using growth-based instruments and you got to sell those growth-based instruments even in down markets because you're investing for growth. In up markets, you're selling less growth because you went up in value, and in down markets, you're selling more growth, what used to be growth, because you're selling shares, and you're going to sell more shares. And you have to understand the mechanics of how money works. Because if you don't, one day, 10 years, 15 years down the road, you're going to look at your spouse, and you're going to say, where did we go wrong? Well, a lot of it is because the advice you're given today is the most common advice that everybody is given today. They're hoping that they can recover your principal by actually, when the markets finally come back, that they can actually recover that and recover it quickly and then look at you and say, see there, I told you to hold on. Well, I don't know about you, but that is not a retirement plan. A retirement plan, you need to be able to set yourself up to where income constantly flows in spite of the odds of the markets of what you cannot control. You can't control the markets, but you can control the income that is provided to you. In order to do that, you got to have the instruments that pay income in any environment. So if you would like to learn more about income first methods, which is our focus, we're not getting you out of growth. Matter of fact, we're actually doing a better job of preserving your principal so you have the opportunity for growth. This book teaches you how to get income consistently in any kind of environment, up markets and most importantly down markets. Why? Because you're using a defensive strategy called income. And I want you to get this excellent book. It shows you how to get an extra 60 or 70% on your own money invested in the same instruments our clients are, that you are right now, but you're taking a pay cut while you're in retirement. Therefore, you're having to give up principal to calling it income. And that's exactly what's going on. This book is called The Retirement Income Shift, How to Get the Most Mileage Out of Your Money, written by your host. #1 by Amazon bestseller for 3 straight months after October in its release in personal finance. I got a free copy for the first 5 callers of today's retirement income source. Call 888-930-1080. 888-930-1080. And we will mail this book out to you if you're one of the first 5 callers. Free, no obligation book. 888-930-1080. You're tuned in to the Retirement Income Source. This is Tim Sparks. We'll be right back. I don't know about you, but I built my house many years ago where I extended our house, added another 1,300 square feet to our house than where we live now versus having to move. Unfortunately, my father-in-law was a builder, so we built the house, added on that 1,300 square feet, and also we have a separate garage. I'm trying to, trying to create a garage at, for 3 cars, 3-car garage, put water in. We kind of spoiled ourselves a little bit, had, custom showers and, bathrooms for my wife. It's everything we kind of wanted, and I'm happy and content where I'm at. Well, about a year or two later, kind of like what we're being challenged with right now, we're actually seeing a lot of flooding, right? And it kind of reminded me, with all the rain that we're getting right now, and some of the roads that I've actually drove through where it's probably 3 or 4 inches flowing across the road. And I was thinking about how our house wasn't really, our crawl space wasn't really waterproof. And it started showing whenever the water started rising, wasn't going nowhere because we constantly got rain. I can't remember the time of the year. And so, once the rain has subsided, once we got to the point to where it dried up a little bit, I had contacted a person to be able to weatherproof and try to set up our crawl space where water would drain out easily. And this particular construction group was really, really good about doing that. Matter of fact, they had all the tools. They drilled the hose in some of the crawl space, in the foundation and the footers and stuff like that, where water can flow out easily, because you can tell that they did this for a living. Well, the point is I was trying to fix a problem that I knew that if I didn't fix the problem, it would have just continued to rear its ugly head each and every year that we had flooding rains. And you can imagine what water does, mold and, and so forth. And not only that, who knows what else it can damage if I just ignored it and let it go. Well, you see, the reason I bring that up is most of us really kind of ignore the realities of the markets. We can't control the markets, but at the same time, we can't control how we invest, right? Because when you go into retirement, it's emotionally and philosophically makes all the difference of how you invest and where you invest. In other words, it's the right instruments that to be able to get you through retirement. If you want your cake and eat it too, you have to have instruments that's going to be able to get you through the tipsy-turvies of the market. The markets go up, nobody's complaining at all, right? It's when the markets start going down, that's what separates the men from the boys. Well, you see, just like I was preparing for the flooding and stuff, where our crawl space started gathering a lot of water, I decided I'm going to fix that where it can drain itself without me having to worry about it each and every year. I want to stop the problem in its tracks. A lot of times people put stuff off. We procrastinate, right? I mean, at the end of the day, we're really good at putting things off. And at the end of the day, if you want to fix the income problem, then you're going to have to take action. You can listen to this show each and every week. We have people call in, and they basically, we're not trying to make you a client. All we're just saying, there is a better way to get through stressful times like we're going through right now. Anybody can get you through when markets are doing well. And the problem is nobody, invests for income even in a down market. If you can do it in a down market, you can do it in any market, because the income doesn't change. You see, in the up market, I get the same income plus I get the growth. In a down market, I get the income. I can't control it because the growth is going down. But the income doesn't change just because the balance changes. Just like if I had $1 million and it drops to $800,000, that $1 million, if it was invested in mutual funds and stuff like that, I'm probably not going to spend any money. But if that $1 million was, let's just say, an 8-plex, and I'm collecting rent on the other hand, and that $1 million, if I did an appraisal in the last 2 weeks on that property, and let's just say, and for the sake of what I'm trying to make a point here, is if it drops to $800,000, it doesn't change anything. The income is still going to come in. The renters are still going to pay the rent. And matter of fact, the rent's not going to go down because the value of the real estate goes down. So you got to get your mindset around income plus growth. It is a great thing to have, but you got to keep in mind that it's also income minus growth. It goes both ways. The pendulum swings both ways when you're using market-based instruments. And most people, I don't understand why they even use bond funds whenever the bonds that make up the bond funds actually pay more income. So you're leaving money on the table from and even taking the conservative route, because individual bonds give you contractual guarantees. Even on paper, they could be reduced when their interest rates go up, but that doesn't matter. You just continue to ride it out, get your income. The bonds come back, and when they mature, they're going to give you your money back. It's much better than the alternative. And only that, your income is cut in half with bond funds. I've never understood why people use them, but they still use them in hopes that it can probably maybe, I guess the only reason I can figure is they don't know what they don't know, or they're just trusting their financial advisor does know. But at the end of the day, it's all about being intentional. Get the education. Learn. And that's the reason why we provide you with the information. It gives you an idea of how the markets really work, especially whenever you're actually switching gears, transitioning to retirement. You want something that will get you through retirement in any environment. So if you would like to know more about how to get income in any environment, got a great commission report I'm going to get in your hand called Risk Tolerance and Investing for Income. In other words, people take risk in the stock market because they're okay with the reward until they're not okay with the reward and it goes the other way, like what's going on right now. And I like the markets. Matter of fact, I think it's if you're really going to beat inflation, you really need to be in the stock market and actually complement your portfolio with other income-based instruments that are more contractual. But at the end of the day, when the markets go down, you're not getting the income that you need because you're having to spend principal, and actually, unfortunately, you're going to sell more. And this commission report kind of helps you to understand the difference between what good income instruments are that you need, including stocks that pay dividends, versus the alternative option, which unfortunately most people are utilizing today. And you can get that commission report by calling 888-930-1080. Again, 888-930-1080. We'll mail this to your email at whichever you prefer. Again, that number is 888-930-1080. You're tuned in to the Retirement Income Source. This is Tim Sparks, and today we're talking about anxieties, markets, and income. I know everywhere you read, everything you see right now is all about the tariffs. You got one side of the aisle that's saying tariffs are bad, it's going to ruin the country. You got another side of the aisle, you got to be patient. Well, to be quite honest with you, tariffs, we already know what they do temporarily. In my personal opinion, I think in the long run, they'll probably be okay. I mean, at the end of the day, I can't control how long it will take to recover from the tariffs and how long your portfolio will recover. But you know what? If you were investing for income before this happened, you wouldn't have had to worry about the recovery because the income, the paycheck still come in, the interest and dividends still comes in because you have the right tools to get you through times and periods like we're experiencing right now. Income, let me repeat myself. Income does not change just because the markets drop 15%. Income does not change in stocks just because they drop 15%. The share prices is what changes. So therefore, you're going to see a reduction on your paper statement. You see, at the end of the day, dividends are always going to be paid to you because they're paid on a per-share basis. I said on a per-share basis. It's a dollar amount. I was showing this to a client the other day, how a dollar amount doesn't change. Matter of fact, I even showed this client how the dollar amount on a particular holding, I'm not going to give the name of the holding because you would think that, oh, this is a suggestion of what you're selling. But this is a dividend-paying company, and I took them back from 2000 till now, and I showed how the dividends, now get this, 2000, 2001, 2002, the stock market dropped 50%. The share prices in this particular instrument only dropped about 28%. It still went down, but the dividend continued to pay out on a per-share basis. That was the point I was trying to make. Well, by the time if the client would have wrote it out in a portfolio that was dividend, a dividend strategy, that's the stock dividend kept increasing, including in the financial crisis. It blows your mind. Matter of fact, the dividend went from like 46 cents to 62 cents just in a short 6-year time frame. Imagine that. Income increasing while the markets are going down. That's the reason why you want to be able to invest for income. Income actually, if you got the right instruments, that's the reason why we use analysts. I want somebody that knows what they're doing. They're in the trenches. That's all they do is they watch the stock market, what you should buy, what you should stay away from. That's why we call them income specialists. They're analysts. They're a step ahead, way ahead of any advisor that you work with. They're out there doing the guessing game just like you, but not these guys. They don't do that. And that's why it's so important to have the right tools for you to help you to get through these market fluctuations. And if you want to learn more about that, I want to get a book in your hand called The Retirement Income Shift, written by your host, Tim Sparks, Amazon bestseller, in 6 different categories when it was released. And I got a free copy for the first 5 callers of today's retirement income source, 888-930-1080. 888-930-1080. And we'll mail that out to you if you're one of the first 5 callers. Free, no obligation book, 888-930-1080. You're tuned in to the Retirement Income Source. I look forward to speaking with you in just a minute. Thank you for listening. Welcome back. This is the Retirement Income Source. And my name is Tim Sparks. And today our show is sponsored by Sparks Financial Group, right here in the heart of the Bluegrass, Lexington, Kentucky, serving both Louisville, northern Kentucky, and middle part of the state. And today we're talking about anxieties, markets, and income. Well, this is a time when people get anxious, especially if you're a retiree and you're nervous about taking income. Well, if you were investing for income, our clients right now are going to get their same paychecks as they did last month. And their paychecks are not coming from principal just because there's some volatility because they were in the stock market. It's coming from real interest and dividends. There is a huge difference between those two. Unfortunately, 99% of the portfolios we examined today, a lot of the money is actually coming from selling of shares and calling the income. There is a difference. We're trying to do everything we can do, right, to increase the odds of not running out of money. But yet we're doing the very thing that is going to cause us to run out of money, and that is we're selling principal each and every month. On average, most of you are probably taking monthly paychecks. On average, what I see is about 60 to 70% of every payment that's paid to you, deposit to you from your portfolio, is coming from your own principal. You could have done that in your bank account. As a matter of fact, some of you probably are right now because you're probably not even taking anything from your retirement portfolio. In the last few weeks, people, when we were doing client reviews, people are all, you can't remove anxiety. You can't remove stress and worry about, the tariffs and stuff and what they're going to do to the market. Hopefully not forever, but we have no control over that. But I want our clients to continue to spend. Why? Because I've seen it through the pandemic and it didn't change. The portfolio is still in a position to grow over time. I've seen it like in 2022. The markets went down on average about 25%. The bond market also went down about 20%, but it didn't matter. Our clients were still getting the paychecks. The paychecks didn't change because there was reduction in the market. You can't control the market conditions. That's what you cannot control, and nobody will ever be able to control. I always hear the markets always go up. Well, they do. But there's pockets of time they don't always go up, and you have to be prepared and embrace for both market conditions. Yes, the markets go up more than they go down, but it's when they go down how long it takes to recover. And so 2013, that recovery period took 13 years. In other words, there was zero growth. You didn't have anything coming in, no assistance whatsoever, but it's worse than that. Because if you were spending, on average, 70% of your own money during that 13 years, I would say, and matter of fact, I can back this up, probably in 6 to 7 years later, you would be broke. Why? Because that wouldn't have been a good time to be spending, but that's exactly what people do, because they don't know any better, because they don't understand how market-based instruments work. They do know how they work whenever they were accumulating assets. That kind of was a given. That was the easy part, because you were accumulating because you were dollar cost averaging, you were contributing to your plan, and the employer was assisting you with that. But when you stepped in retirement, those contributions went away. Now your portfolio is now you got to find out what it's really going to make. In the good years, you make money. Wow, you pat yourself on the back. But what about right now? Like in 2022, like in 2020 in the pandemic. I don't know about you, but when the market dropped during the pandemic, it dropped 35%, and it did it in 30 days. Yeah, it recovered in hindsight, but who's to say that it would have? Who's to say that it wouldn't have taken longer? See, when you retire for the future and you're dependent on the future of the portfolio and you're hoping for market performance, here's what you got to realize. There are going to be times that you may not see market performance for some time. Why? Because you're going to wait till that portfolio regains before you start investing or taking income from that portfolio. That's not retirement, where some years you spend and some years you don't. So if this makes sense to you, I'd like to get a commission report in your hand. It's related to a lot of what I'm talking about. And it's 7 risks to your retirement. And it talks about the effects of spending principal, understanding the effects of spending principal, because people don't really realize how dangerous this is. It's a cancer that starts out, small, turns into stage 1, goes all the way to stage 4 by the time you get 10 years into retirement. And I'm just being dramatic right here, but when the markets go down, you don't realize you're selling more and more of your principal, because you still need income just to give you the income that you were continuing to take out, because you want that income to be steady. Well, you're steadily spending more principal in the down market. Right now, you're selling it at 15% reduction. It's a great time to be building wealth or accumulating wealth, but it's a terrible time to actually be taking income from your portfolio. And so I want to get this commission report in your hand. Again, 7 risks to your retirement, talks about spending principal. 888-930-1080. 888-930-1080. We'll mail this to your email at whichever you prefer. That number again is 888-930-1080. This is the Retirement Income Source. This is Tim Sparks, and today we're talking about anxieties, markets, and income. You see, when markets are down like the last few weeks, and I don't know about you, it's everybody's, it's probably headlines right now, headline news, dropping. We know why, tariffs, etc. They could continue to go down. Who knows? We may go into recession. Recession basically means recovery is going to be lengthy. Just to get your money back, because you'll put off spending, you'll put off vacations and stuff. If you were investing for income, people, you wouldn't have had to do that. There is a way to get through even in this environment, because investing for income works in any environment, because you own the right tools and it helps you to get through times like this. Keep in mind, I've still, if I had a trip planned like I do here in a couple months, I got to have income coming in, or I'm not going to make that trip. I'm going to put it off. Or if I have a trip to the Caribbean, or if I want to go to Alaska, I'm going to put it off probably now. And matter of fact, I hope you haven't put a down payment on it. You may go ahead and cancel it and lose your down payment. When you invest for income at the end of the day, why should you have to put things off? Because not only that, if we go through a recession, a lot of times, in my experience, recessions or recovery your money can take 3 to 4 years. 3 to 4 years is a long time to recover the money that you once enjoyed just about maybe a month or a month and a half ago. That's what the markets do. They give and they take away. But when you invest for income, even when the markets are taken away, and if you're investing for income, the chickens are skinny, but they're still laying eggs. Just like when the chickens are fat, they're still laying eggs. Either way, when the markets are doing well, they're fat. And when the markets are going down, when they're going down, they're skinny, but they still lay eggs. That's what you got to realize. There is a big difference. And when you're in retirement, you want your retirement plan to be about eating the eggs and not killing the chickens. I had a client come in just the other day. They were referred to us from a friend that's been using us now. By the way, I met with them last night. It was kind of ironic that they both kind of came in. One came in for review. The other one come in to get their investments set up for the purpose of income and retirement. And we went over everything. She's going to retire in a few years. He's going to go ahead and retire at the end of this year. And so when we kind of added up everything that they had, we're looking at about $1.5 million. And the matter of fact, just by me helping them, give them an inventory, $1.5 million, they didn't really realize how much they had. And, that's one thing that's very confusing to me, is why people don't stay on top of their money. Just leaving things alone, leaving them dormant, does not benefit you. If you got 401ks that are abandoned out there that you haven't touched or looked at, matter of fact, when we were doing the inventory with this particular couple, there was about 2 or 3 of them that they haven't even looked at. They just get statements, but they just kind of sweep them under the rug, and as if they're just anything else that they have. And these are financial tools that are going to make you healthy and wealthy in retirement. Just leaving them dormant doesn't make sense to me. I mean, imagine a farmer that just leaves a vacant piece of land sitting there and doesn't put any crops on it. I mean, it don't even make any sense. Or an abandoned apartment building. At the end of the day, I want the apartment building to be full. That way, I'm making money always. That's what dividends do. They pay you income always. And so, once we kind of uncovered all this stuff for them, that with the abandonment of some of these 401ks and stuff, and they're not needing income from their portfolio. So just like I was talking about earlier, dividends increase over time. Doesn't matter what. Right now, if there's companies out there that are paying dividends, they're probably going to raise them just in the next month or two. Imagine getting a pay raise while the markets are going down. You see, that's the difference when we're dealing with real bona fide income. And most people are not doing it, but you're missing out. You're leaving money on the table. So when we were going over their retirement income plans and also comparing it to what they're living on right now, how much they're saving and everything, I did what I call a top-down analysis to help them to see this right here. She said, I may, I'm going to retire maybe in 3 or 4 years, but who knows, and sometimes people put things off because it really just depends. It depends on the environment, because they don't know and understand how money works, or they don't even assess what they have. They don't do an inventory of what they have. So in other words, she's taken, she said she may work longer, and that just depends. And so once I put the income plan together and showed them what that would look like roughly, she can retire now. They both can retire now if they want to. You see, when you invest for income doesn't change just because the markets don't change. The markets you can't control, but the income, believe it or not, continues to increase. In 4 years, that's when they need the money. Actually, their income, and get this, in retirement, this is what reason I tell people to plan ahead, not plan behind. Wait till you're retiring, then let's get on the bandwagon and start retiring. If you plan ahead, your income will actually increase with income instruments, because income instruments, you have more to invest. More to invest means more income each and every year. It steps up the income. It keeps ratcheting every year, kind of like a stair step. So their income is jumping up between 4, 5, and 6% a year. So their income, by the time they got to 4 years from now, their income and Social Security and all was going to be about 40% more than what they're living on right now. Well, I don't know about you. It's nice to know that and comforting to know that actually can be possible. And a lot of people don't realize you can actually do that. You can do that without being in the stock market. You can do that conservatively if you're afraid and fearful of being in the market. You can be a middle of the road, which most of the people we work with are. They want a hybrid of both stocks and bonds. And bonds pay income, stocks pay income. The more income instruments you have, the more income you're going to get. The more stocks you're going to have, the more growth and income you're going to get. So it's just a mix and match. It depends on the individual. And so, at this time in the next 3 or 4 years, I feel pretty confident the markets will rebound eventually. They usually typically do. Therefore, I can help put a portfolio that allow them to have their cake and eat it too. Down markets allows them to buy things on a discount. You can't, because you don't get enough dividends. You're in mutual funds. Mutual funds pay less dividends. So you don't get the reinvestment strategy like you could, like our clients are getting, because they're dealing with individual stocks versus dealing with mutual funds. Nothing wrong with mutual funds other than you're not going to get the same income like you are in real securities. So if you want to learn more about income first methods, growth second, not getting rid of the growth, but actually helps growth because you're not selling growth like most people are in their portfolios that we examine, and have a defensive income strategy. Defense is dividends. And when markets come down, you know what to do. You can embrace and assure yourself that you're still just spending nothing but pure income. And if you want to know how to get an extra 5%, then you want this book as a must, Retirement Income Shift. Written by your host, Amazon bestseller, when it was released in October of last year, in 6 categories of personal finance. Got a free copy for the first 5 callers of today's retirement income source. Call 888-930-1080. 888-930-1080. We'll mail this out to you if you're one of the first 5 callers. Free, no obligation book, 888-930-1080. You're listening to the Retirement Income Source. This is Tim Sparks. I'll be right back. You're dialed in to the Retirement Income Source. This is Tim Sparks, and this show is sponsored by Sparks Financial Group right here in the heart of the Bluegrass, Lexington, Kentucky, serving both Northern and Louisville, Kentucky. Today we're talking about anxieties, markets, and income. Tipsy-turvy. Markets are going up some years, markets go down. At the end of the day, whenever you invest for income, it doesn't really matter. The markets can go down, you still get the same paycheck. It doesn't change. Just like it was when you were working. In 2008, most of you are probably listening to this show right now, you were contributing and building wealth, right? Did it matter to you? No, because you had income coming in from the employer you work for. It makes it a lot easier. You see, when you invest for income, you want the same feeling whenever you go through an environment like we're going through right now. Tariffs are going to change the markets. In the long run, the way the plan is, it shouldn't. It's supposed to improve the markets over time. But in the short run, a lot of people are taking note. Are they in the right place? Every time the markets come down, it's the way we are. The human nature is we get as easily negative as we are being positive. For 2 years in a row, we do this. We go through cycles emotionally. We get mood-wise. When the markets are going up, we feel good. Where everything is great. We forget about what the markets do when they come down. And the reality is we know both of them going to occur, but we don't plan for it. So we give our money to our advisor, and we're assuming just because they call them a financial advisor, it's just kind of like you go to a doctor and you're hoping that they're giving you the right advice so that way you can feel better. It's the same way it is when you go through market conditions, but it's worse because our money is our money. It's a lot more personal to us, and it should be more personal to you. My dad always told me, when it comes to my money, son, I got very few friends. I mean, be intentional. Understand how market-based instruments work. The stuff we give on this show are extremely important and critical to educate you and inform you. And don't just sit on it. At the end of the day, if you continue to procrastinate, you continue to put this stuff off, because that's what we're good at sometimes. I'm there with you. There's times I put things off and I shouldn't put things off. We become masters at it. Only way things change is if it takes steps of action, not necessarily all. You don't always have to have all feet in. But I'm not saying making a change as far as investing in a separate instruments that are probably different, new to you. I'm talking about be informed and educated first, so that way you can invest. Because at the end of the day, if you was to try another pair of shoes, which was more income based, and you're going through times like this, you're going to feel a lot more comfortable about spending money. So if you want to know more about investing for income, first of all, you got to find the right advisor that knows and understands what I'm talking about. People can say they can call anything income, but this is not what I'm talking about. Again, income investing is investing for interest and dividends. Get your interest and dividends up. That money does not change. That paycheck is forecasted the next 12 months to pay you, and the more you get it up, the less you need of your principal, and that's the whole point. But I want to get a commission report in your hands called Risk Tolerance and Investing for Income. Because right now we're experiencing risk, right? Anytime the markets come down, I don't know, should I be taking income or should I not? So this is a great commission report. I'm going to get it in your hand if you call 888-930-1080. Again, that's 888-930-1080. We will mail this or email it, whichever you prefer. 888-930-1080. You're tuned in to the Retirement Income Source. This is Tim Sparks, and we're talking about anxieties, markets, and income. We set up some income plans just in the last few weeks, and when people come in, they say, okay, well, what's my dividends? What my interest? Because we've, over the years, whenever we prepared them for the time like right now, they're going to step in retirement and they're going to hit their target date because they were investing correctly right out of the gate. They started early. They didn't put this off. Like right now, I know some of you probably are thinking about retiring. Probably not right now. Every time the markets do, like, kind of a hiccup, kind of like, so to speak, they drop 15%. You're probably thinking, I think I'll hang on and work a little longer, knowing you would rather retire. That is not a great place to be in emotionally. If you want to retire comfortably, then you need to invest the correct way, so that way whenever you do retire, you hit your target date. And so we have people right now, we just turned on income for a particular client that started taking withdrawals, and they remember, and I told them how much income they were going to get several years ago, and right now their income is more than what they anticipated. It's always going to be that way. Why? Because at the end of the day, what are we, quoting in income several years ago, when that reinvests, because they're getting more income in the portfolio, they buy more income instruments, so the income, it kind of multiplies on itself. So in this case, the income went up from $52,000 to $63,000 a year. I don't know about you, but $11,000 more. And guess what market conditions we went through? 2022, right now, and part of 2020. Imagine going through, now we're looking back, because we can't look forward because that ain't happened yet. But if I look back, the income still increased. Imagine that. You see, income doesn't change. If anything, it increases the more you're deferring. And I would just, for most of you out there, that 401ks, and you can do in-service rollovers, you're over 59 and a half. Now's the time to prepare and embrace for income and hit your target date. Don't wait until you retire and then do it. At the end of the day, you can get growth and income, but your income is going to multiply on itself. And it's going to, as a matter of fact, in a lot of cases, depending on how much risk you're wanting to take. You know, like let's just say you want all stocks, you can actually have your growth and income. And we have some people that are actually contributing. That's a marriage made in heaven. That puts growth on steroids. So just keep in mind, tariffs, anxiety, markets, income, the latter is the most important. You can't control the other three. You can't control the anxiety you're experiencing now. You can't control the market volatility, but you can control the income because the income does not change. I like to get a book in your hand, Income First Methods. Great read, simple read. People tell me they can read it 3 or 4 hours. How to have defensive income strategies in retirement. And after all, you deserve a pay raise. Most of you are leaving money on the table. It's a great read, Amazon bestseller, written by your host, Tim Sparks. And we talk about the instruments that will get you through retirement stress-free. And this book can be yours if you're one of the first 5 callers of today's retirement income source. 888-930-1080. Again, that's 888-930-1080. We'll mail it out to you if you're one of the first 5 callers. Free, no obligation book, 888-930-1080. You've been listening to this retirement income source. We've come to the tail end of our show today. We hope that you've gotten some good nuggets from this show. Keep in mind, learn, understand what this stuff is. Call in and get this information. We get calls, bombarded by calls each and every week from people that are finally learning how income works in any environment. Do you want a retirement plan for worst case scenario or for best case scenario? Best case scenario or worst case scenario, they both are going to occur in your retirement years if you're planning on living 20 to 30 years in retirement. But we appreciate you listening to the show. We look forward to some more great information next week. Again, be safe out there, and hopefully we'll get out of this rain soon.